Hey guys, today I have a really fun video for you. Sebastian of the future here. I completely forgot to tell you what the heck this video is about. This video is a growing guide for all of the plants that we are growing on our online nursery here in Fountain Inn, South Carolina. So I wanted to go through literally plant by plant and give you grower tips that you guys can apply in your own gardens, and also what varieties that we like to pick. You can find these varieties. We get a lot of the seeds from johnnyseeds.com, and we really like these varieties because they do really well in our area, zone 8A. So I thought I'd share that. Let's go back to the website, go plant by plant, because we got a lot to cover. If you see me looking down, I got my laptop handy right here, and I am on my website, and I'll pop some pictures up of the things that I'm talking about. So let's dive right in. So flash collards is a really smooth variety of collards, kind of thicker leafed, and it's very heat tolerant. We picked it because it does well, of course, in the South. Collards do well. It's very southern, but it also does well, this one, in the heat. We've grown it successfully for many years, and I've heard feedback from people that when they buy from the nursery, they really like it. Very beginner friendly, super great variety. And I really think that when it comes to when you're buying and you're checking out at your nurseries and you're looking at things, it's good to know the varieties, because often either at your local nurseries or, you know, like Lowe's or other places, it will just say lettuce, or it will just say tomato, or it'll just say, you know, cabbage or cauliflower, whatever you're buying, it'll just say the plant. But we like to put on our website the variety so that you know. And if you hear those sounds, that's my dog. That's Bear making some sounds. He's trying to get my attention by making those sounds. Anyway, we do like to write on our website what the varieties are so that you know exactly what you're looking at. I do put the description on the webpage as well. But let's get into the next one, because I can go to town on every variety. Muir lettuce, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, M-U-I-R. That one is very heat tolerant. So again, see the theme here? I don't have to worry about lettuces being cold tolerant here in the South. Lettuces handle the cold. They're cold, hardy crops. Now, the thing that I do have to worry about is our springs. Sometimes we'll have a random day that will just creep up to the 90s. Or anything like that. So for example, cilantro, or, you know, like the leafy greens that are more tender, they'll just bolt. So I'm looking for more heat tolerant varieties that are a little more bolt resistant. Also, a quick tip on the lettuces in general, plant them in the shade here in the South. Our sun is just too much for them, and they do just fine. We've grown them for years. They do just fine in the shade. So if you've seen our videos, I have multiple videos on seeding, on planting lettuce, like from the plug trays in our garden, and we intermix varieties. We plant them in rows of green and purple and so on and so forth. We also chose a buttercrunch lettuce on our website. Buttercrunch is also heat tolerant. Just again, it's a smoother, tender leaf. It's smoother. Muir lettuce is more curly. It is a little more slow growing, I will say. Muir is. Salvius romaine lettuce. So it's an excellent variety of romaine lettuce. The next one is all-star lettuce mix. I will say, this one is not as heat tolerant. Not that that's anything bad, because when you plant it in the spring, if you can find the seeds, or if you're in a colder region, it is cold tolerant, of course, because it's a lettuce. But if you are planting this in the spring, no, it's a more tender lettuce. So when you eat it, it's really light, really tender, similar to what you would get at your grocery store, you know, when you get those mixes, but a lot more tender because you're growing it yourself and you can pick it earlier. The next variety of lettuce is Cherokee lettuce. We just wanted to have a red lettuce as well, but this one, red lettuces tend to be a little more heat tolerant as well. So see the theme across the lettuces? All right, the next one is Darkabor kale. This is your typical curly kale. I will say, over the years, I have noticed the sales of our kale go down just a little bit. I don't know if you guys don't like kale, or I don't know if people just don't know enough about it, or they think kale is what you buy from the store when you buy it. Often the kale that you buy from the store is it's older. It's just been sitting around. They grow it a little too big, in my opinion. And it's just been sitting around for a while, and it tastes bitter, it tastes strong, and it's really tough to chew. You know, when you just want to commit and you want to swallow and it just doesn't go down, that kind of thing. I just feel like sometimes kale can do that. But when you grow it in the garden, you can choose when you pick it. We love picking it a little more when it's tender. We don't like letting it get too big. but also if you grow it in the heat, sometimes it can be a little more bitter. Kale can also do well in the shade. So feel free to plant the kale in the shade. The other one that's really tough is Toscano, which is the lacinato kale. It is our favorite kale to make kale chips and to also make, what else do we make? Oh, I put it in my soups and stews. It holds up really well. I use both, but that one holds up. And actually Caesar salad. Instead of using lettuce, because I feel sometimes with Caesar salad, the lettuce just doesn't hold up enough to the dressing because all the acid in the dressing kind of eats away at the lettuce. And then you have watery, sad, soggy lettuce with really delicious Caesar dressing. Mainly I'm thinking of this when we make it homemade. It happens because it has a lot of lemon juice, mustard and whatnot. So anyway, I do love to use the kale because the dressing softens the kale, but it doesn't, the kale is so tough. It doesn't really, it acts more of a lettuce in that sense. I love it. So we picked, the next variety is Bright Lights Swiss chard. Again, another leafy green that we can grow in the sun or in the shade. If you do grow Bright Lights Swiss chard, you will be able to grow it in the summer because it's a little more heat tolerant. And also grow it in the shade so that it doesn't get as stressed or bitter. Next one is Bull's Blood beets. Beets are technically a cool weather crop. So for you local people, when you're getting the plants from us, you'll be getting them. Some people are pre-ordering now. Pre-order starts now until like January 27th is the cutoff date for like the pre-order sale. You can still pre-order after. You just won't get like the 10% off or 15% off plus free delivery depending on, it's all on the website. I'll put it somewhere later. But if you're seeding the beets and you're in a warmer climate, seed them earlier than you think because the beets can take quite a lot of cool weather. The good thing is when you get them as starts, so you'll have them, the local people that buy them from us as starts, you'll have quite the advantage. So when you plant them after the last frost date, you will be able to get beets pretty quickly before the heat kicks in. However, beets you can still plant in the cool weather seasons. The only reason we're not offering beets or other cooler weather crops like broccoli, cauliflower, and so on and so forth at our nursery right now is because technically those are to be planted pretty soon, like February, even March. And really in the South, it's great to plant broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower. It's actually best to plant those in the fall. Let them overwinter, and in spring they'll perk right back up. They'll just sit there for a little bit, and then you'll have a harvest. Unless you plant late summer, you'll have a fall harvest. So anyway, you can always play around, but plant the plants when they want to be planted, and you won't be dealing with a lot of pest issues. Dunja zucchini squash. Now, this looks like your typical zucchini, which kind of is, but I love this variety. We have carried this variety for probably 5, maybe 6 years now. Haven't veered off from it because we've tried other varieties. We like them, but this one is high yielding and powdery mildew resistant. It doesn't mean it's powdery mildew proof, but it's resistant and it's more disease resistant than others. I have not had any issues with powdery mildew on our zucchinis. The only issues that we always have is the squash bugs, and those you have to manually just pick and deal with them. They're a pain, it's true, but you just deal with that. And then we hand pick them, or you can use tape, like you reverse the tape to where the sticky side is on the outside, and you go underneath the leaves and you grab all the little eggs, and you'll see them in a very symmetrical form in the back of the leaves, and you just stay on top of the eggs first. If you stay on top of that pretty regularly, you shouldn't have an issue. However, when you plant your zucchini, just stagger it. Plant it every 2 or 3 weeks or every month. Plant a few plants, and then by the time one dies, the other one is ready to go. And then later on in the season, the squash bugs will be gone. So just stagger it if you don't want to deal with the bugs. The next variety that we have on the website is butternut squash. That really is your typical butternut squash variety. I couldn't find like a fun one, so not much to talk about there. Sweet 100 tomato. I do think Johnny changed the name, or Johnny Seeds, because that's where most of them come from. Sweet 100 makes the beautiful clusters. I'll put a picture here, but just a lot of clusters. They're smaller, but they're very sweet in a high amount and quantity. They are more thin-skinned, which I love because when we cook with cherry tomatoes, you literally throw them in the pan, they burst very quickly, as opposed to sometimes when you get some varieties from the grocery store, which really are more bred for shipping. They have a thicker skin so that, it can take the shipping. But the thinner skin varieties often just have such a good flavor. Speaking of thin skin varieties, the next one is Sun Gold Tomato. By far my favorite cherry tomato, I'll say. And dare I say even tomato period. I don't know. It tastes to me like candy. I could eat it straight up. I don't need anything else. I can put it in things, but I'm a purist when it comes to this variety. I love it. We sell out of it pretty much every year. And maybe I shouldn't promote it because then I don't have enough for myself. But we always have a stock of our own Sun Gold. We grow it every year. Because it is an orange tomato, it's not as tart. I wouldn't say tart, not sour, but acidic. That's the word I'm looking for. It's not as acidic as that of a red tomato, but it has enough acidity to count. It says exceptional sweet, bright tangerine, orange, cherry tomatoes leave everyone begging for more. Vigorous plants, they are vigorous. They get big. Surprisingly, the cherry tomato plants sometimes will get bigger than that of your slicing tomato. Next variety, heirloom variety, San Marzano. This is probably the creme of the cream of the crop, if you will, of the paste tomatoes. They claim to be the best tasting, high quality, high producing. We love this for canning, for sauces, but also this one actually for even fresh eating. When you eat these, they're surprisingly juicy. I think of paste, it's going to taste mealy and pasty. Not at all. The flavor is intense. It's very meaty, so you can make a good sauce that won't turn out very watery with the San Marzano tomatoes. Our favorite to can and do other things with. But we may make some canning videos on tomatoes depending how much we have this year. I don't mind using any variety to can because sometimes you just have an overabundance of tomatoes. So we just use them because either we'll freeze them or can them, or we will dehydrate them, turn them into powder. The next variety of tomatoes is Early Girl. I will say, disclaimer, I have not been in the past years, a huge fan of your typical run-of-the-mill, I'll say like the Better Boy, the things that you can get just anywhere. Holly and I, if you're new here, by the way, Holly's my wife. Holly and I love to grow just fun varieties of different things. And over the years, we've carried a huge variety of things at the nursery because it's just so fun. And I just know that some people will buy what they're used to buying. They know they like their Better Boys. They know they like the Early Girls. They know they like their certain cherry tomatoes of a certain variety. And we would carry, like the fun heirlooms and different other things. And we'd have almost 20 varieties of tomatoes alone. We carry a huge variety. And often we would have a lot of plants left over. We would sell them wholesale to some people. We would even donate them. It's sad to see that many tomatoes go to waste, but it's just often a lot of people just don't know about the varieties. So that's kind of why I like to do these videos too, is because I want to introduce new varieties, new things for people to try. And sometimes people have limited space, so I totally get it. They want to test or grow something that they know it's reliable, instead of potentially gambling on the fact that this is a fun new variety, but they only have so much space, and what if it doesn't produce? And that's kind of the point. So totally get it on the practical side, but I want to share some varieties that are really fun that we really like of tomatoes. So Early Girl, not saying anything bad about it. I think, though, they have a place. They're hybrid tomatoes. The flavor is not going to be as good as a heirloom tomato, but the reliability and disease resistance is going to be great. Compared to heirlooms, they tend to get blight and other issues a lot faster. Anyway, next one, Cherokee Purple Tomato, very popular. Heirloom as well. It has kind of a smoky taste to it because of that purplish anthocyanin that it gets from being in the sun. The more it is in the sun, the more purple it will get. And that's the anthocyanin is that, I believe, is it an antioxidant? I'm pretty sure it is. Anyway, my health brain is kicking in. We also own a wellness center, by the way. So that's kind of where we just came from there. So I'm doing this video from getting back from work. So Cherokee Purple Tomato is another heirloom. Excellent flavor, excellent taste. Again, you can't go wrong with that one. Another heirloom that we are carrying this year, striped German tomato. It is a orange tomato with some kind of, not striping, how would you say, webbing of sorts, but it's kind of orangey, red, yellow. Very sweet, excellent flavor. It's quite the favorite in this neck of the woods, but it's a really good tomato. And also, we did a tomato taste testing video. I'll put a link somewhere. And if you guys visit the website, you'll see the links on the website of the videos we made so that you can kind of get a real-time, not real-time, but in a video you can kind of see us taste testing some. Because some tomatoes were winners and some I was like, but is it user error or is it the variety? Anyway, the next one is, I will say your run-of-the-mill, but not, I was very surprised last year. I don't know why. Our Better Boys performed beautifully. We had just a solid crop. They were perfect looking. And the taste is way better than I remember it being. And I don't know if it's because we amended our soil with rock dust, which is mineral dust, which we typically put in our beds. I seldom show it on the videos. I always forget to mention it because I just forget. But if you're going to plant tomatoes and anything in your veggie garden, just add rock dust to your soil. It gives minerals to the soil. Next one is Beefmaster tomato, a favorite. We will always grow this one. Out of all of these tomatoes, slicing large tomatoes, I will say Beefmaster, top favorite. It has been a top favorite for our local customers as well. And if you're not local, if you can get some seed packets and try it yourself, or if you can find it at a nursery, Beefmaster variety, it is, I don't know if it's Johnny's or not. I'm pretty sure that. Anyway, just try to find the Beefmaster variety. It is huge tomatoes. I mean, we got a huge one. We have it in that video that we did, the taste testing. We taste tested that one. Oh my gosh, it tastes like an heirloom, but it's not. And in the video, I think I mentioned it was an heirloom, and somebody corrected me and said it was a hybrid, and I'm glad they did because I stored it in my brain as an heirloom because it looks like one. It has that kind of, I don't know, that wrinkly shape to it. The next one is Beatrice eggplant. We have grown this for many years, and it is by far my favorite variety. And all of these varieties I know do so well for us in this zone. So that's why we pick these varieties. I don't know about your zones where you guys might be. I just know the performers here in our soil. We have heavy clay soil, but also in our garden we plant in raised beds, which does help. So when we grow these, we typically grow them in raised beds. We have grown them in the clay soil. They also do well. Some of these that I'll mention that are upcoming actually do well in the clay soil. So if you are in-ground planting, some of these varieties will be really good for that. Beatrice eggplant is that kind of lavender color, not as deep dark purple as your typical eggplant, and it's a little smaller, which I like because you get eggplants sooner. These you get a lot more. They're very prolific. Sometimes you'll notice the leaves will get little holes with bugs, but they still don't seem to be bothered. It's more of an aesthetic thing. So the bugs sometimes can get to the leaves in the summer when they're a little stressed. If the watering is infrequent sometimes. You could spray the leaves with neem oil or anything like that, garlic oil you can also use and spray it on the leaves, but I just kind of leave it, let it go, and it's fine. It produces just fine, and they produce a lot. We've had a lot over the years. They're excellent. Very meaty and tender at the same time. The next variety, we have 3 varieties of cucumbers. General Lee cucumber. And General Lee cucumber has been specifically bred for the South. So it does really well in our clay soil. You can also pickle it when they're a little small as well. So if you want to bypass getting 2 varieties, get one and then just pick one when they're a little smaller, totally fine. Unagi cucumber is the next one. Unagi has been probably one of the local favorites, and I'm sure you can grow it anywhere in the US, but it is an excellent variety. The longer it gets, typically when cucumbers get bigger, they get seedier and they lose their crunch. They get, I don't know, kind of watery and soggy and sad. The unagi doesn't. They keep their crunch, which is amazing. And they're thin, kind of like a muncher cucumber, but just long. I think it said they can grow up to 14 inches, if I can remember. Yeah, stays crisp and delicious up to 14 inches. Amazing. Also, it says here strong disease resistance, which I forgot about. I didn't even think about it because when we grew ours, they just grow. No issues. Next one is National Pickling Cucumbers. Now, these will be, obviously, for pickling. You can eat them as fresh. They're just denser, crunchier. The seeds are a lot smaller in them. So if you really want a true pickling cucumber that will have that real good crunch, you can definitely, well, of course you can eat them fresh, but they're great for pickling, for either fermented pickles or your typical canned pickles. The next variety that we're going to talk about is early jalapeno pepper. And this jalapeno pepper is early. So it's your typical jalapeno. They will be smaller, and they produce a lot earlier. I will say this variety won't produce as much. It's kind of bred that way. It's not like the most high yielding. It'll produce plenty, but it's not the most high yielding. So if you're going to get it, you're going to get jalapenos a lot earlier, quicker. I will say depending on how many jalapenos you want, if you just kind of dabble with jalapenos, one plant will be more than enough, but 2 or 3 plants might be right for you. Now, if you want more, just know that it won't be as a heavy producer as your typical jalapeno, but it will produce early, and then you'll have another crop, so it'll just take longer for more crops. That's the story. Flavor Burst pepper is the next one. So it is an orange, technically like a large bell pepper. Now you can harvest this one as a green pepper. So technically green peppers are just unripe peppers. So I realized some people in our gardening group and all that, they were asking if we have green peppers that we're going to sell. And I said, oh no, that's just unripe bell pepper. So you can pick any variety and just pick it sooner. Some varieties you can pick green and they are going to be a little better, not as raw tasting, if that makes any sense. So I do have another variety that's coming up next that is really well suited for green peppers. This one is just fine. It will be a lot sweeter though when you pick this one at its perfect ripeness, because this orange pepper, Flavor Burst, it is going to be like a bell pepper with a hint of a sweet pepper. So like a large sweet pepper, but yeah, it's sweeter than a bell pepper. That's what I'm trying to get at. The next one is, we always carry this variety. It is extremely high yielding, easy to grow. I've never had an issue. It says even on here, it's the standard bell pepper for many decades. Yes, if you want a reliable, pretty much anywhere, I'm sure in the US or anywhere you are, I'm sure you could probably grow this California Wonder. You can pick them. They will ripen to red, but you can pick them green. So if you have the Flavor Burst and you have the California Wonder, you got 3 colors with 2 plants. Or if you just want 2 colors, you can do that with 1 plant. But, sometimes it looks nice when you buy the bell peppers. You can have them all in a really nice coloring and really nice arrangement in a salad. They look beautiful. Next is the candy onion. These get huge. These get big. They store decently well, but since their sugar content is going to be a lot higher, the candy onions don't store as long. I would say onions, frankly, are pretty easy to grow. Sometimes we have onions left over that didn't sell at the nursery, and I will have them in their pots, in their nursery pots that are like the 6-packs. I mean, what is a 6-pack? 2 inches, maybe 3 by 3, something like that. 3 inches by 3 inches. And root bound as all get out, and they'll still make, it'll be a lot smaller of an onion, but you just set it and forget it. Now, they are heavy feeders, so when you plant the onion plants, the starts, it is recommended to get some sort of compost. So if you are local, we carry a local organic compost, a spoma. If you are not local, you can get a spoma. They have the Land and Sea is excellent, or just a good compost that you can find. I will say, if you are asked, some people ask me about good quality composts. I would kind of veer off from the big box stores composts. Often they're just made for a high production and cheaper cost and whatnot. So the ingredients in them they're not as fertile, so on and so forth. So check out your local garden centers and see if they're carrying something. They'll be able to tell you because they know. Often they use them themselves. So we recommend ours because I get them from a local farm. Locally, it's organic. The guy's amazing. He knows what he's doing, and we use it to actually grow our vegetable starts, our cut flower starts, and other things too. So anyway, onions, excellent, easy to grow. Just feed them and give them a good espoma. Makes a great fertilizer. MI Gardener has a good trifecta fertilizer you can put in the ground, scratch it in, and then plant them. The next one is run-of-the-mill red onion. It will be a little sharper and stronger, higher sulfur content, I believe. It has more of that oniony taste. Navashan scallions. So we've carried this scallion for quite a while. You can, typically these are a bunching type. So you plant a grouping of them and then you harvest them as you need. Scallions, but they have a sweeter flavor. That's kind of their fame, or claim to fame, if you will. The next variety is going to be Sarah's Choice Melon, which is awesome. Sarah's Choice Melon, we have grown also, but my in-laws last year, and I don't know if the year before, but I'm pretty sure last year, they grew some beautiful cantaloupes and they just wouldn't stop coming. This variety is solid. The flavor is intense of just cantaloupe. I know some people feel strongly about cantaloupe and don't like it. I'm of the camp of I love it. And this variety is your just that musk that they have, and I feel like that kind of sounds negative about cantaloupes, but I love it. I love that floral, sweet taste that they have. The next one is the Crimson Sweet Watermelon, and that one is, as it says, it's an excellent variety, but really specifically, it does well here in the South for us. I have found, and my in-laws actually also grew, I can't remember how many, but they were really nice, and they were really, really good. One of the best watermelons I've ever tasted, and my wife said the same thing, and my son. So that's really great. Whoops, forgot to record an outro to the video, so I'm going to play some fun music while I'll tell you about the next video. The next video is part 2, where we're going to talk about all the cut flowers. There are 5 parts to the series, so stay tuned for the next video. Bye!